Hare Krishna. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. I'm first of all offering millions of Dandavat Pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat Pranams. So today is the 7th day of Kartik, and it's the 6th day of our VRAJA-MANDAL PARIKRAMA. Yesterday we did a local parikrama and we went to Lohavan, Radha-Gokula, Radha-Raman and Radha-Gopinath. And we also celebrated the Tirobal, the disappearance day of Shri Narottam Das Thakur. So yesterday was a very blissful day. I have to make one correction from yesterday when we were describing the size of the beautiful effulgent Radha-Raman manifesting from the shellagram of Gopal Bhatta. I was reading from the early Parikrama book, the first edition of my Gurudev's Parikrama book, and in there it's describing the size of Radha-Raman as being 12 fingers high. But I was considering this morning that that's far too high. That would make him 3 foot high. And in the new Parikrama book, of course, the correction has been made. It's 12 widths of a finger wide, which puts him at approximately 7, 8, maybe 12 inches maximum. So I Googled it this morning just to hear another authority, Uncle Google, and they quote 30 centimeters, 1 foot. So he's certainly smaller than what I described yesterday. So that's the first correction. And then the second correction I want to just put correct is I spoke the 7 principal temples of Vrindavan, and I think I said 8 or 9 temples. Of course, there's 5,000 temples in Vrindavan. There are 7 which are considered the most prominent, and officially that comes out at Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda and Radha Gopinath, and then Radha Damodar, Radha Raman, where we went yesterday, and Radha Shamsundar. So these are the 7 that are officially listed as the 7 main temples of Vrindavan. I was saying yesterday how Banka Bihari is probably one of the most popular temples, but in the listing of the official temples, those ones that I've just described are there. So sometimes if I make any errors, I would be most grateful if anybody wants to send me a message and correct me. I certainly am not an authority on all of these details and places. There are so many details and places. Our Gurudev would make us stand up and speak in front of him so that he could correct us. So now I'm appreciating that the devotees and Vaishnavas on this thread who are receiving these audios each day, if they spot any errors, then please don't hesitate to correct me. The whole Sangha is more potent than the individual. So from the potency of this group, I'm hoping to understand and appreciate more of these beautiful pastime places than I did initially. So our life is a learning process, and please don't hesitate to send me a WhatsApp and correct me. And by the way, if any of you are having any difficulty downloading any of the files that we're sending out, then you please contact Manjulali Didi from Switzerland. Her broadband is much stronger than here in India, so she's sending everything out from Switzerland. So if you have any difficulties, technical difficulties, you please contact her at that address where the mails have been sent from. Okay, thank you very much for that. So today we're leaving Vrindavan and we're going to cross over the Jamuna. We'll take the Mathura road, going through Mathura again, as we did on our first day on the way to Durvasa Ashram. But today, when we cross over the bridge, we're going to veer to the right, and we're going into the forest initially of Lohavan. And we're going to see the beautiful mandir of Dauji Prabhu, Lord Balaram, his beautiful, very tall, beautiful, blackish coloured, wonderful deity that we're going to have darshan today. When we cross over again into the eastern side, the eastern bank of the Jamuna, we understand that Baladev, he's the Adhisthadata Deva, the principal Ishtadev, the presiding Devata of the pastimes on this side, on the eastern side of the Jamuna. So this beautiful Shyam complexion deity of Balaram, Dauji, was established by Bramanada 5,000 years ago. But due to the Yavanas, the Muslim invasion, then the deity was hidden in Shir Saga, which is a kund just beside where he's presently seen. And he was found face down by the Brahmanas many, many years later. And again he was brought out and established in this beautiful temple in Dauji. So when we come into this village of Dauji, we have to leave our buses outside the village because the roads are very small, and we walk through the very narrow streets in procession, chanting. We come into a beautiful courtyard which leads into a large gate, and then we come into the very large courtyard of this beautiful temple of Dauji, and we see his most attractive features are there. If we look through the side door, then we can see his wife, Revati. Revati is not publicly displayed because Revati, the deity of Revati, was not installed by Brajanab. Because Brajanab at that time, he was just installing the Vrindavan deities. Revati is Balaram's wife when he's in Dwarka. But nevertheless, the marriage between Balaram and Revati took place in Braj. This is an interesting pastime that Revati, her father Revata, was looking for the most powerful man to marry his beautiful daughter to, and he couldn't find a suitable candidate for his daughter's hand. So he went to Lord Brahma with his daughter and appealed to Lord Brahma for a solution to his problem, to find a suitable candidate, husband for for his daughter. And while they were there, they had to wait a little while for Lord Brahma. And then finally Lord Brahma came and told them, well, actually now much time has passed since you've been here in earth years. So when you go back, everything will have changed radically, and Dwarpa Yuga will be just concluding. But the most suitable husband for your daughter, Revati, will be Lord Balaram. You go and take your daughter, and Lord Balaram will accept her as his wife. So King Revata, he came back with his daughter, and he came to the forest where Balaram was dwelling, and he offered his daughter in marriage. And at that time, of course, Balaram was perhaps 15 or 16 feet high. because in Dwapara Yuga they were much higher than now. But Revati, she was so high, practically in the clouds. So Balaram, he called for his plow, and he put his plow on her shoulder, and he pulled her down to the level of his ears. It's described in Indian culture that if the wife is as high as the ears on a man, then that's a very good match. So he pulled her down in size to become a suitable bride for him. And then, of course, Balaram was immersed in his cowherd pastimes at that time, so Revati, she was taken with her relatives and she stayed there until the time was right for when Balaram went to Dwarka. Later on, then that marriage took place fully. But that deity of Revati was made and was installed next to Balaram at this place. So, but it's not on public display. So when we look through the side door, we can see behind the door into the temple area where Dauji is there, then we see the beautiful deity of Revati is there in a secret place. So she's not exposed because she was not from Braj. She did not take part in the Braj pastimes. And Brajanava, he didn't install her there. So this is the story of Revati, who we see just behind the door. So this beautiful deity has been worshipped, of course, for so many thousands of years. And when we consider Baladev Prabhu and his tattva, then our hearts fill with wonder. We appreciate that all living entities are manifesting from Baladev Prabhu. He is the Ishtadev of the Sandini Shakti, that Shakti of existence potency. So that existence potency is manifesting all the jivas in existence. So Baladev Prabhu, he's described as Akhanda Guru Mula Tattva. He's the root of Guru. And when we're here in front of him, we always glorify Guru Tattva. And Gurudev has described so many times that this Guru Nishta is the backbone of our process. Without Guru Nishta, then of course nothing can be successful. So Balaram Prabhu, he's the Akhanda Guru Mula Tattva. He's the embodiment of Guru. All Gurus are empowered by Baladev Prabhu. So Baladev Prabhu was conceived in the womb of Devaki, and then he was transferred by the potency of Yogamaya into the womb of Rohini Ma. Rohini is another wife of Vasudeva. Vasudeva has 18 wives actually, and Balaram is transferred from Devaki into the womb of Rohini, who was sent to Gokul to stay with Mother Yashoda and avoid Kamsa's wrath. So Rohini was taking shelter with Mother Yashoda, and she was already pregnant 6 months when she came to Gokul. And Yashoda, she was also pregnant at that time, because we understand conclusively that Baladev is only 8 days older than Krishna. So Gurudev has established this every single year during Baladev Purnima. He always makes a point to impress upon us the age difference was 8 days, because in some places they think that Baladev was a year older than Krishna. But Gurudev explains how could that possibly be, because they were crawling around together. They had so many childhood pastimes together in Gokul. Baladev, he was not born in this place of Dauji. The temple was manifested there in glorification of him, but his birthplace is Gokul. He wasn't born in this place of Dauji. So, but we glorify Baladev as being the Ishtadev of all this side of the Jamuna, because so many pastimes Baladev is prominent. So Baladev, as I've already described, he killed Pralamba on this side. So Krishna and Balaram were growing up in Gokul, and so many childhood pastimes were performed with Krishna and Balaram together, crawling through the cow dung, Mother Yashoda and Rohini Ma scolding them. So many very, very sweet pastimes we remember at this time. And we also remember, of course, being here in Dauji, all of the other glories of Baladev Prabhu down through all through the time when his manifest pastimes were going on. He killed Dhenukasura on the other side of the Jamuna later on, and he steadied the planet when Krishna was fighting towards the end of his Vrindavan pastimes with Vyomasura. When Vyomasura, they were fighting within the sky and then crashing onto the ground in Kamyavan. And at that time, the planet Earth became somewhat unsteady. So Baladev, he planted his foot on the earth to steady up Mother Earth at that time. And we can go there, we will go there. When we go to Kamyavan, and we'll see that beautiful footprint of Baladev Prabhu. So Baladev Prabhu is nourishing all the jivas through the mood of understanding who is Guru. When we're connecting with Guru, then we are linking with all our previous acharyas. We're linking with the vital current originally coming from Rupa Goswami, who was empowered by Sachinandan Gaurahari. So this connection is vital for any type of progress to take place for the sadhak. So later on, in the pastimes of Balaram, when he moves to Dwarka, when they take shelter of the fort in Dwarka against all the demoniac armies, then Balaram's sister Subhadra becomes of a marriageable age. And Balaram, he has a very good relationship with Duryodhan. He taught Duryodhan the art of club fighting, and he wanted Subhadra to marry Duryodhan. But Krishna, he wanted Subhadra to marry the great hero, Arjuna. So he made a plan, and he told Arjuna, who had become attracted to Subhadra, that he should disguise himself as a sannyasi, and then Subhadra would come and render service to him. And then after some time, a relationship perhaps would manifest between the two of them. And at that time, Arjuna could take the appropriate action. So Arjuna agreed to this plan, and then Subhadra was very devotionally worshipping the honorable sannyasi, who was actually Arjuna disguised, but she became very attracted to his physical form. And then Arjuna, he expressed his attraction also to Subhadra, and then he kidnapped Subhadra, and he placed her on his chariot, and as he was leaving Dwarka, a huge hue and cry arose behind him that this sannyasi was kidnapping the sister of Balaram and Krishna. And Balaram became enraged and called all his armies to follow and to bring Subhadra back. But then Krishna came to Balaram and pointed out, but who is holding the reins of the chariot? Who is driving away? Who is the controller of this situation? And then Balaram, he saw that it was in fact Subhadra. She was holding the reins of the chariot as Arjuna was getting ready to battle with the armies that were about to pursue him. So when Balaram saw this, then he understood, oh, this is the arrangement of my younger brother. Now I will submit to this idea. So he gave up his anger and allowed his sister with Krishna to marry Arjuna. So this is one pastime in Dwarka. But of course Balaram has so many pastimes throughout the pastimes of Krishna, always with Krishna. Balaram will never leave Krishna under any circumstances. When they go to Mathura at the end of Krishna's Braja Lila, then Nanda Baba is suggesting that Balaram come back to Braj. He's accepting that Krishna has to stay in Mathura with Vasudeva and Devaki after the killing of Kamsa, but he requests Balaram to actually come back to Braj, and Balaram won't even hear it. Balaram, of course, will never leave the place where Krishna is, so in every instance Balaram is there with Krishna, except when it comes to the battle of Kurukshetra war later on. Then Balaram, he doesn't take part in that because he has some partiality towards Duryodhana, and he doesn't want to take part in that battle. So he goes on pilgrimage instead, and he comes to the place where Ramaharsana is performing the yagya to appease Kali Yuga. And at that time, when he comes into the assembly, then all of those people in the assembly, they stand up to greet Balaram. They realize what an exceptional personality has come into their midst, except Ramaharsana. And then Balaram, he sees this fault in this person, and that he's not qualified to present these teachings at this time. So he takes a blade of kushagras and he kills Ramaharsana. And the sages there, they become very unhappy that has happened, because they have blessed Ramaharsana with a long life, etc. So he will perform this 1,000-year yagya. But Balaram, he's ready to bring Ramaharsana back to life again, but the sages say, no, what you've done, you've done. And then Balaram, he installs Ramaharsana's son and empowers Ramaharsana's son, Sutta Goswami, who we read continuously about in the Bhagavatam. Sutta Goswami is the spokesman of the Bhagavatam. Sutta Goswami was listening to Shukadev and Parikshit in their dialogue, Shukadev reciting the Bhagavatam at Sukrata. And then he came back to Naimisharanya, Sutta Goswami, and spoke this Bhagavatam to the sages at Naimisharanya. So he was empowered by Baladev. So we see this potency of Baladev Prabhu, that thread, that current of potency coming through Guru, is present in all of Krishna's pastimes. All his Leela are supported fully by Balaram, from the very birth of Krishna right through to the departure after the fratricidal war at Pravash, where all the Yadus killed each other, and Balaram again goes into that Sheshanag that rises out of the ocean. But when Balaram took his birth here in Gokul, near to Krishna, he was quite deaf when he first took his birth. This is a little bit like Sri Radha. She was blind when she first manifested, and it wasn't until Krishna came to Balaram that his hearing again began. Balaram appeared like a dumb person until Krishna approached him, and then all his faculties were again woken up. And the same with Sri Radha. She appeared to be blind, but when Krishna, when he looked inside the cradle in Varshana, then, or in Raval, then she opened her eyes. So Radha and Balaram, they both had similar pastimes like that, but these were all performed in Gokul, and this is where we've come today, to the forest of Lohavan. So we hear many stories and pastimes of Baladev at Dauji, and we can take darshan of this most attractive deity, and also see his wife from Dwarka is there. So Baladev Prabhu ki jai, Dauji Baya ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So now we're going to go to Brahmanda-ghata, which is in Mahavan, which is very close by, and we're going to hear the pastime of Krishna eating dirt at that place at Brahmanda-ghata. Dauji Baya ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So now we've come to Brahmanda-ghata, and this is a most attractive, beautiful place. The darshan of Jamuna Devi is right clearly running alongside the steps here, right in front of us. And most years the devotees, they take bath very happily in Jamuna Devi at this place, at this time. It's a very wonderful ghat and place to remember and celebrate the beautiful pastime of Krishna that took place here. Krishna was very young. He was about 2.5, maybe 3 years old at this time. And he'd been playing with his cowherd boyfriends. And at one time, Krishna decided to eat Mother Earth. And he was eating the earth. He was tasting the earth. Krishna, a little baby, he was always hungry for makan, butter, and his mother's milk. And he also was hungry, and he decided to eat some dirt. But all the boys playing, they were chastising Krishna. And they even called Mother Yashoda to tell her that Krishna was eating dirt. So Mother Yashoda came running, and she chastised Krishna severely. "Why are you eating dirt?" Krishna responded, "No, Mother, I didn't eat any dirt." And then Mother Yashoda, she said, "Let me look inside your mouth then. I don't believe you. You're a rascal. Let me see inside your mouth." So Krishna, he opened his mouth wide. And Mother Yashoda, she was astonished. She looked inside Krishna's mouth, and she saw millions and millions of Brahmandas. She saw all the universes. She saw the entirety of the cosmic manifestation within the mouth of her little son. Krishna, of course, holds the whole Brahmand within his abdomen. So Mother Yashoda was looking directly into the entirety of all the cosmos within the mouth of Krishna. She saw millions of Lord Brahmas. She saw millions of Lord Shivas and Vishnus. She saw all the heavenly planets, etc. She saw the entirety of the whole cosmos. It was such a astonishing, stunning sight for Mother Yashoda to see. Mother Yashoda became very disturbed by this Aishwarya manifestation coming from her darling son. She didn't think for a moment that this was the potency of her little boy. She thought immediately, this must be the illusory energy. Or maybe my darling boy has been attacked by a ghost. But she wasn't thinking for a single moment that this is the mystic opulence of my son. And this is the wonderment of this particular pastime, is that Mother Yashoda's prem was not compromised one iota by the sight of this opulence coming from her son. She just thought, this cannot have anything to do with my son. This must be the illusory energy, or it must be a ghost has come and haunted him. And her prem, her Vatsalya prem, wasn't compromised slightly. So this is an example of the Brijabasi's love for Krishna. They are never enamored by any type of opulence that Krishna may demonstrate. To them, he's always their little child who is dependent on them for his food, for his livelihood. So this is a very beautiful, powerful pastime demonstrating this. And we see in contrast that when Devaki and Vasudeva in Mathura, they saw the opulence of Krishna when he appeared in the dungeon in Kamsa's dungeon in Mathura. They offered beautiful prayers with folded hands to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were completely overwhelmed by that opulence and were honoring that opulence. And that opulence took away any mood of Vatsalya that Devaki may have had for Krishna at that time. Her Vatsalya was very much inferior, totally inferior to Mother Yashoda. So this example is a very beautiful example to see the speciality of Madhurya Prem, how Madhurya Prem is never compromised by any type of Aishwarya exhibition. And we also see on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when Krishna showed his universal form to Arjun, then his Sakya bhav was very much weakened, and Arjuna, he was also chanting so many prayers, and he was apologizing to Krishna for being familiar with him in the past. So the sweetness was taken out of the relationship by the exhibition of this Aishwarya. So this is a very important pastime for the devotees to appreciate in this place of Brahmanda-ghata, is that the speciality and sweetness of Madhurya Prem is always superior to any type of Aishwarya exhibition. Krishna, he's saying in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's one very beautiful verse in the 4th chapter of the Adi Lila, verse 17 and 18. The verse is Aishwarya Janate Shabha Jagat Mishrita, Aishwarya Sitila Prem Nahi Mora Priti. And this translates as, Krishna thought, all the universe is filled with the conception of my majesty, but love, weakened by that sense of majesty, does not satisfy me. So then there's another verse, verse 18 after that, where Krishna is saying, if one regards me as the Supreme Lord and himself as a subordinate, I do not become subservient to his love, nor can it control me. So this being controlled by the love of the Brijbasis is the speciality of Braja Prem. And in this pastime of Krishna eating dirt at Brahmanda-ghata, then it's very much demonstrated how Vatsalya Bhav, the Vatsalya Bhav of Mother Yashoda, was totally secure in its affection to Krishna as her little boy. She never for a moment thought that Krishna is anyone other than her child. And we also see in the Rati of the Gopis, the Rati of the Gopis is called Samartha Rati. This Samartha Rati, it controls Krishna. This love controls Krishna. This is the mood that Krishna wants to experience in his pastimes with the Brijbasis. This is the highest mood that Krishna experiences in Goloka Vrindavan, in Apricot, that he is controlled by the love of Madhurya Prem. Compared to the queens of Dwarka, their love is described as Samanjasa Rati, and they don't go to the stage of Mahabhav, and their stage of love only goes to Anurag, from Sneha, Man, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag. It goes as far, it doesn't go to Bhav and Mahabhav, the queens of Dwarka. So they cannot control Krishna in Dwarka. It's described in Dwarka that Krishna, he weeps on his pillow every night, calling out the names of the Brijbasis. He never calls out the names of the queens. So we see this distinction again between Madhurya and Aishwarya, which is running throughout all of these special pastimes that we experience in Braj. We can appreciate this fundamental Siddhanta, and especially in this pastime at Brahmanda-ghata. So this is a very beautiful pastime to meditate on and remember. And also there's another pastime here, that when Krishna was very young, then the boys, they began to tease him. They said, oh, you are so blackish, but your mother and father are very fair. So you're not really the son of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba. Actually, you were born by a very black man, and he didn't know how to look after you, so he put you in the hollow of a tree. And Nanda Baba, he found you and took you home. And then Mother Yashoda, she adopted you. And Krishna was listening to this and becoming more and more unhappy. And he became really restless, and he came back home. He didn't want to play anymore. He came back into the home of Mother Yashoda, and he lay in the courtyard wailing and rolling on the ground in the dust. And Mother Yashoda, she tried to pacify him, but Krishna didn't even want to go to Mother Yashoda. He was pushing her away, but forcibly Mother Yashoda took him on her lap and wiped all the dust from his face, and then demanded, what is wrong? Why are you weeping like this? And then Krishna revealed that all the boys, they had been saying that actually Mother Yashoda is not his real mother. Nanda Baba is not his real father. And Mother Yashoda, she was astonished. She was saying, how are they saying that? And then Krishna said, because I am so black and you are not so black. And then Mother Yashoda, she laughed and laughed. And she said, this is nonsense, this is complete nonsense. And then she put her hand on Krishna's forehead and she said, I take an oath before Lord Narayan that you are my son and you have manifested from my womb. And then Krishna, he saw the seriousness of Mother Yashoda taking that oath, and then he understood, yes, I really am the son of Mother Yashoda. So then, of course, their affection was increased by that pastime. So this is a very beautiful, sweet pastime. So all these pastimes around here where we are today in the forest of Mahavan. Now we're in the forest of Mahavan. Dauji was in Lohavan, but now we've come to the forest of Mahavan, which is very close to Gokul, which is the birthplace of Krishna, and Raval, the birthplace of Sri Radha. So we'll be going through there now on the buses. So these are the pastimes at Brahmanda-ghata. Brahmanda-ghata ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So now, coming from Brahmanda-ghata, we can either board our buses to go the mile distance to Gokul, or we can just simply walk that distance. It's very short. And on the way, halfway from Brahmanda-ghata to Gokul, is the place where Krishna broke the yogurt pot that Mother Yashoda was churning when we sing this beautiful Damodar Astakam and we talk about the Dambanda Lila, this beautiful Damodar Lila. So this took place right here in the home, practically, of Krishna in Gokul. Krishna, as we know, took birth from the womb of Mother Yashoda in Gokul. He manifested from Devaki in Mathura. This is not the same, because as we've just been describing, this enormous distinction of moods between the Aishwarya of Mathura and the speciality of the sweetness of Madhurya. We're hearing so much about this topic within our personal Sangha that Srila Gurudev spoke about so many times. But these topics are not so commonly spoken about in other groups outside of our Sangha. So we should always feel great gratitude that we have these beautiful truths that were revealed to us by Gurudev. As we've spoken before, Gurudev was such a Brijbasi. He appreciated so deeply the speciality of Madhurya, because this is what it means to be a Brijbasi. And this Madhurya speciality is really heightened when we come to Gokul today. So in this forest of Mahavan, we visit Nanda Baba's palace, and we see the pillars inside the temple. We walk up some steps, and as we're walking up the steps, off to our right, there are steps that lead down, down, down into a cave of Sanatana Goswami. So it's the Bhajan Kutia of Sanatana Goswami also. He was residing here, meditating on these beautiful, special, sweet pastimes of Krishna in his childhood Leela. And then we come up the stairs in through the large gate into the courtyard, the compound of the Gokul Mandir. And then inside the Mandir itself, we see the beautiful deities of Nanda Baba and Mother Yashoda and baby Krishna, and also Lord Narayan is there. And the Pandas there, they sit us all down and then they explain their story about Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba, etc. But then we hear the Katha from our beloved Gurudev after this about all of the sweet childhood pastimes relating to Krishna in this place. When Krishna was born from his mother's womb, all the midwives, they all saw that birth. They saw Krishna coming out of Mother Yashoda's womb. Of course, there were two children born, but Yogamaya, she covered that remembrance of the two. Subhadra was also born at that time, who was exchanged when Vasudeva crossed the Jamuna and placed Mathuranath Krishna, who merged into the body of Brajendrananda and Krishna to perform his sweet Vrindavan pastimes. So this umbilical cutting ceremony the Brijbasis had perceived, and when Krishna was born at midnight on the Astami, the dark moon night, then Nanda Baba was so happy to hear that news, he told the town criers to begin ringing all the bells at midnight, and it's described how everyone dressed in their best clothes and they all came to take darshan of the beautiful new child. Of course, the child at that time was still in the birth chamber, but they all came to honor Nanda Baba and to hear about the glories of Krishna at that time, because the day after Krishna's birth, of course, is Nandotsav, is when we celebrate when Krishna was shown to all the Brijbasis and they could have his darshan. We understand also that in these childhood pastimes that Krishna, he was related to all the Brijbasis. They were his nephews or nieces, or they were all his aunties, his uncles, his grandfather, etc. They were all related to Krishna. They had a physical relationship with Krishna. So all the relatives of Vrindavan, they had to come and hold Krishna. So this is all described in the Radha Ganesh Deepika, how Krishna was related to all of the Brijbasis, in fact. So when Krishna was crawling about in the courtyard of Mother Yashoda in Gokul, one day they saw some beautiful flowers, and Krishna and Balaram together, they wanted to bring those flowers inside, and they had to move some prickly thorns to get at the flowers, and they moved the prickly thorns and they got inside this little area where the flowers were, but then they realized that they couldn't get back out again because they couldn't pull the prickly thorns away again from the inside. So then they began wailing and wailing, and of course Mother Yashoda came and she chastised them. Why are you playing like this? And she brought them back inside. This in Damodar Leela is described that these pools of bliss are flowing in Gokul with the sweet pastimes. Another time Krishna, he climbed on the back of a calf because he wanted to get some butter that was hanging from a rafter, from a rooftop, and he could just reach to the butter pot, which was together tied in with a rope, and he just reached the butter pot standing on the back of a little calf. But then the calf decided, oh, now I can escape, and then the calf ran off, leaving Krishna hanging, holding on to the butter pot, crying out for mother, mother, mother. Mother came running and pulled him down and scolded him again. Sometimes Krishna and Balaram, they would hold on to the cows' tails, and the cows, of course, would become frightened by someone pulling on their tails, and they would start running around in the yard, and Krishna and Balaram, they would be just being pulled along through the cow dung in the courtyard and having great fun being pulled by the tails of the cows. So these pastimes are packed in Gokul, and when we come through, we hear so many of these sweet pastimes, and we can appreciate Krishna's speciality in Madhurya in this place of Gokul. Gokul was established by Nanda Baba. He came here with his father, Parjanya. Parjanya is the brother of Surya Sen, and Surya Sen is the son of Devamila. There was a king, Devamila, and he had two wives. He had a Chatriyani wife and he had a Gopa wife. And then he had a son by the Chatriyani wife, that was Surya Sen. And he had a son by the Gopa wife, and that was Parjanya. And then from the son Surya Sen, his son was Vasudeva. And Vasudeva of course, married Devaki, and Rohini were two of his wives. And from the Gopa wife, Parjanya was born. So Parjanya is of a cowherd mood, a Gopa mood. And Parjanya resided in Nandagaon. So Parjanya was in Nandagaon, and his other sons, they had already born children. He had 5 sons: Abhinandan, Upanandan, Nanda, Sunanda, and Nandanandan. These 5 sons. And the 4 sons, they had already produced children. So he was already a grandfather from those sons. But Nanda Baba hadn't produced a child. So he went and he performed austerities to pray to Lord Narayan for his son Nanda to have a healthy son. And during his austerities, a voice, an aerial voice, came from the sky. "Oh, your son Nanda will have such a glorious son. He'll defeat all the demons all around here. So you need not fear for the welfare of Nanda Baba." So Parjanya became very happy to hear that aerial voice proclaiming this. And then it's described that the Keshi demon was present in Braj at that time and was causing disturbances around Nandagaon, where Parjanya was residing. So Parjanya, he shifted with his whole family. They were, of course, cowherd men, so they would always be moving around. But they shifted from that traditional home of Nandagaon across to Gokul to avoid that demon Keshi. And then when they came to Gokul, then it was here that Nanda Baba, or that Mother Yashoda, gave birth to Sri Krishna, much to the joy of all the family. So this was the background to that. And then Parjanya, he was old now, and he was preparing to leave his body. So he asked Abhinanda, who was his eldest son, to now take care of all the family, to become like the king of Braj, so to speak, or the king of this community. And Abhinanda and Upananda, they requested Parjanya, "No, you please make Nanda Baba in charge of all the family. He is the most qualified to do this." So Parjanya, on the request of his other sons, he asked Nanda Baba to take the kingship, so to speak, of the family in Gokul. So Nanda Baba was they refer to them as the king and the queen of Braj. This means that they are the heads of the family. Nanda Baba is the head of the family, which was agreed by all the brothers. So this is what Jiva Goswami explains in his Gopal Champu about Nanda Baba's situation. So there are so many pastimes in Gokul that we can remember, especially all of Krishna's Balya Leela, his childhood pastimes. The Damodar pastime took place here when Mother Yashoda, she bound Krishna eventually by the power of her Vatsalya Prem again. So we heard her Vatsalya Prem, that potency in Brahmanda-ghata just now, and also in this Dambanda Leela, the power of her Prem to capture Krishna, to bind him. So this is remarkable that Krishna can be bound by the Prem of his mother. So now we're going to leave Gokul and we're going to go to the birthplace or the manifestation of Sri Radha, and this was in Raval, and this is very close by. So we're going to go across to Raval now, and we're going to hear about the birth of Sri Radha. Gokul Dham Ki Jai. So now we've come to Raval, which is where we celebrate the appearance and birth of our most beloved Sri Radha. Raval is about 7 kilometers from Gokul, just as Varshana is about 7 kilometers from Nandagan. Vrishabhanu Maharaj and Nanda Baba were the greatest of friends. They would have their millions of cows each, and they would celebrate all the festivals together, and they had a joyous relationship between them. So when Mother Yashoda had given birth to Krishna, then Kirtida, the wife of Vrishabhanu, was overjoyed with her dear friend Yashoda's fortune to have such a beautiful child as Krishna manifest to her, born to her. And she also wanted to have a wonderful child. So it's described by Srila Gurudev that Sri Radha was conceived in the womb of Kirtida. But when Sri Radha was 6 months old in the womb of Kirtida, it appeared that Kirtida had had a miscarriage, because at that time Sri Radha was transferred to the womb of Vrindachal, who is the wife of Himachal in the Himalayan mountains, because the Himalaya mountain himself had a daughter, Parvati, and she had married Lord Shiva. And Himachal, who was a friend of Himalaya, because previously the mountains, as we have heard, were acknowledged personalities. They could fly around, but Indra, he chopped all their wings off, because when they landed, they would make a big mess everywhere. They would squash villages. So their wings were clipped, were chopped off them. And then Himalaya, whose wife was Meena, had a beautiful daughter, Parvati. And she originally was Sati in her previous birth. But Parvati, she married Shivji. So Himalaya, he became very famous because he had such a famous son-in-law. And his friend Himachal, he wanted to have a son-in-law who was even greater than Lord Shiva. So Himachal, he began to grow and grow and grow. Mountains could do like this, just like Giriraj Govardhan has the capacity of growing practically unlimitedly. And Himachal was growing and growing, and he just grew too much. And then Agastya Rishi came one day, and Himachal, he bowed down to Agastya Rishi. And at that time Agastya Rishi said, "Very good, you should remain bowing down now until I come back." So then Himachal was restricted in his growth. Nevertheless, his wife, Vrindachal, she gave birth to the beautiful Sri Radha. And when Krishna was about to manifest, or had already been born, Kamsa, he understood that Krishna was born somewhere, had taken his birth in Braj somewhere, and he sent out Putana to kill all the babies around. And Kamsa also knew that Krishna would appear with his consort, so he instructed Putana to search for the consort. So Putana came to the Himalaya, and she saw this beautiful child of Vrindachal, and she decided, yes, I should actually eat her as well. I should bring her back to Kamsa, and then I should show him that this perhaps might be the Lakshmi that is going to accompany as consort this killer of yours, Krishna. So Putana, she kidnaps that child from Vrindachal. And as she's carrying the child in a sheet across Braj, Vrindachal and Himalchal, they become so disturbed, they call many Brahmins to invoke mantras to attack the Rakshasi Putana so that she'll drop the child. And the power of the mantras forces Putana to drop that beautiful baby, who falls directly into an effulgent lotus flower within the lake here of Raval. Sometimes in some kalpas it's been described that she will fall in Brishabhanu Kund, the Kund of Brishabhanu Maharaj in Varshana, and sometimes she will fall here in Raval. But in this day of Lord Brahma, she falls in the beautiful Kund at Raval into a lotus, and the next day when Brishabhanu Maharaj is bathing, he finds this effulgent, beautiful little girl, and he takes her with great joy back to Kirtida, who accepts her as her own daughter immediately. Immediately her motherly bond intuitively realizes, oh, this is my child, and immediately she embraces Sri Radha as her child and suckles her. Sri Radha at this time is actually blind. She has no vision. So Brishabhanu Maharaj, he doesn't advertise the finding of this beautiful child. But Narad is also searching for Krishna's consort. He also knows that Sri Radha must have manifested. So he comes to the palace of Brishabhanu Maharaj and he asks Brishabhanu Maharaj about his children. And Brishabhanu Maharaj says, oh yes, I have a wonderful son, Sridham. And Narad says, but you have no daughter, you have no daughter. And Brishabhanu Maharaj is a little bit shy to confess to Narad that now he has a daughter because the daughter is blind. So, but he does tell Narad, yes, I do have a daughter. So Narad requests that he sees the daughter, and he comes into Brishabhanu Maharaj's palace and he sees the beautiful child Sri Radha in the cradle, but she's blind. And then he realizes immediately, Narad realizes immediately, oh, this is the consort of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. And then he wants to worship her very opulently, but he doesn't want Brishabhanu Maharaj to see his worship. So he asks Brishabhanu Maharaj, we should do a yagya immediately for this child. And he lists many ingredients that he knows that Brishabhanu Maharaj will have to hunt around for some time. So he gives that list of ingredients to Brishabhanu Maharaj, who goes immediately to the different marketplaces to find all the ingredients to perform this yagya for his daughter. And while he's away, then Narad is very easily able to chant beautiful prayers and stavas and stutis to Sri Radha in the crib. So then this is the birth and the acknowledgement by Narad of Sri Radha in Raval. And a little while later, a few days later, Mother Yashoda, she comes with her newborn child Krishna, of course, to visit Kirtida. And because she's heard Kirtida also has a new child. So then Krishna, he's playing in the room with Kirtida and Yashoda, and he comes to the cradle of Sri Radha, and he pulls the cradle down to look over the edge and to see Sri Radha. And as soon as he does that, then Sri Radha, she opens her eyes. So the first person that Sri Radha is seeing is the beautiful Sri Krishna, her darling lover. So this is how Sri Radha opens her eyes again. So this all happens in Raval. They were only in Raval until Sri Radha was about 2 or 3 years old, because then they left Raval and Gokul, Vrishabhana Maharaj and Nanda Baba, they left Gokul and Raval and crossed the Jamuna and went all the way to Govardhan. They went through Vrindavan and they circumambulated Govardhan, and then Vrishabhana Maharaj, he stayed in Varshana, and Nanda Baba, he stayed in Nandagaon. So this is a beautiful pastime that's described by Kavi Kanpur in Ananda Vrindavan Champu. So they only stayed in Raval until Krishna was about 3 years old. And then they shifted because there were so many demons. Krishna had killed Putana demon, the Rakshasi, then he killed Shakatasura, then he killed Trinavrata, then Vatsasura. These demons were all killed around Gokul. So then Abhinanda and Upananda, they requested Nanda Baba, now we think we should leave here and we should go back to our original homes in Nandagaon. And Vrishabhana Maharaj can go back to his original home in Varshana, because now the demons have become too prominent here and it's too dangerous for our children, for Krishna and Balaram to remain here. So then they all packed up their belongings in beautiful carts, and then they come to the Jamuna, they float the carts across the Jamuna, and then they walk the 26-30 kilometers out to Govardhan, and then they establish themselves in Varshana and Nandagaon. So these are some of the later pastimes after Gokul and Raval. So we hear all these beautiful pastimes about Raval, particularly about this pastime that I told today about Himachal and Vrindachal. We spoke this pastime in front of Gurudev at Raval, and he listened and he appreciated that pastime. So we've heard this pastime from him. So Raval ki jai, Srimati Radharani Vrishabhana Nandini Vrajeshwari ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So tomorrow our schedule is Dira Samira and Vamsivat, Gopeshwar Mahadev, and Radha Govinda Mandir. So tomorrow is a day in Vrindavan. So today has actually been quite a long day, going to Dauji, Brahmanda-ghata, Gokul and Raval, and appreciating the speciality of the flavor of these beautiful pastime places, all connected principally with Krishna's birth, with Radha's birth, with Balaram being glorified in Dauji, and Krishna's sweet pastimes in particular at Brahmanda-ghata. So this was a very exceptionally beautiful day today, visiting all these wonderful places. When we travel in these places, the atmosphere is definitely surcharged with sweetness, and we appreciate so much the remembrances of Krishna's pastimes. So we are most fortunate to be guided by our beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, through all these places to bring out the real sweetness and speciality of Krishna's pastimes. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vaishnavas ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavyevacha, Patitanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha.